Oke bang, ini ikan apa bang?
Ini ikan bawal mak.
Ikan bawal emas.
Ya.
Biasanya berapa ikan nih? Dia ikut kilo?
Dia per kilo,
Per kilo.
30 per kilo.
Rp30 per kilo.
Ya.
Biasanya ikan ini ditangkap macam mana? Bang?
Ya, tetap dengan cara macam-macam lah. Orang biasa orang guna jaring, orang kancing.
Orang guna jala tu.
Ya.
So for the first organism identification is fish. So for the general name is golden pomfret, and we call it ikan bawal emas in Malaysia for the local name, and also the scientific name is Trachinotis blocki. So for the background, we have catching technique and also market price. So for the catching technique, we have three. Gill netting is a common traditional method in Malaysian coastal villages, relatively selective with lower bycatch. And then we have bottom trawling, involves dragging nets on the seafloor. And lastly, we have golden pomfret farming, which is cultivated in floating sea cages and brackish water ponds. And then for the market price, average range from 22 ringgit to 45 ringgit per kilogram, but it depends on size and wild caught or farm. But in the urban areas, generally having higher price up to 45 ringgit per kilogram. So for the recipes, these three are the most common recipes that they do with golden pomfret. So the first one is steamed golden pomfret, and the second one grilled golden pomfret, and lastly sweet and sour pomfret. So for the sustainable evolution, we have three: carbon footprint, biodiversity impact, and catching methods. So the first one, for the carbon footprint, golden pomfret farming in Malaysia generally has a moderate carbon footprint due to near-shore farms with simple infrastructure, reducing the need for air freight or cold storage. Locally farmed pomfret is more eco-friendly. So for the biodiversity impact, well-managed aquaculture using sustainable feed, good waste control, and integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, which is IMTA system, has minimal impact on biodiversity and may even reduce environmental stress. In contrast, overstock or unregulated farms can lead to pollution, disease spread, and habitat degradation. And lastly, we have catching methods. So the sustainable catching methods is using sea cage or pond farming supports year-round production and reduce pressure on wild stocks. Small-scale gill nets, when regulated, cause minimal bycatch and habitat disturbance. For the less sustainable catching methods is using bottom trawling damage seafloor habitats and harm biodiversity. Poorly managed farm can release waste, spread disease, and harm ecosystem. For the recommendation, for consumers, we have to choose locally farmed or sustainable caught golden pomfret using methods like gill netting. And next, buying fresh, local fish to reduce carbon emissions and support Malaysia's aquaculture industry. And then next, we can look for eco-labels such as MyGap or ASC, which indicate responsible farming or fishing practices. And the recommendation for the fisheries and the authorities is to promote sustainable aquaculture through training programs and also enforcement of best practices. Next, discourage harmful methods like bottom trawling by implementing stricter regulation. And lastly, offering incentive for eco-friendly techniques like trap fishing and selective gill netting.
Pagi bang, ini selalunya kalau sotong ini tangkap macam mana?
Pakai kail pun boleh. Kain-kain.
Oh kain lah.
Mancing.
Oh mancing.
Mancing.
Selalunya kalau kalian jual dalam satu kilo tu berapa?
Kilonya ikut size ah. Kung satu 20, sekilo. Setapak tu 8 ringgit. Nah, ada di toko.
Soalnya kalau kena masak ni, dia masak apa sekarang?
Goreng lah, masak rata lah. Kayak dah.
So the general name of the squid is called squid or arrow squids, and the local name is sotong. And last but not least, the scientific name is Notododarus goldii. They have a short lifespan and fast reproduction, which produce a low carbon footprint. Traditionally, squid is caught using the chandat or jigging method. This eco-friendly approach uses strong light to attract the squid. In contrast, commercial trawling drag nets to the water, risking the capture of non-target species. Market prices vary across the country, which the average price at 35.95 ringgit Malaysia per kilogram. From crispy fried squid to spicy and grilled version, this versatile seafood is a Malaysian favorite. For recommendation, consumer can choose locally caught squid, especially via jigging method. Look for eco-friendly labels such as the MSC and prefer fresh or locally frozen squid. For fisheries and authorities, they have to promote jigging over trawling to reduce habitat damage, regulate fishing season to protect spawning period, offer training for artisanal fishers to support low impact methods, and implement catch documentation system to ensure transparency and traceability.
Bang, ini selalu kena tangkap macam mana?
Pakai bubuk lah, bento.
Jadi dia tangkap selalu sekali banyak terus lah.
Tidak lah. Jarang lah.
Oh. Soalnya dia kalau kena begini masak selalu dia masak tuna,
Masak merah.
masak merah.
Oh.
Now, I will explain about crab. First, its identification. First, the general name is flower crab. The local name will be Ketambunga, and the scientific name is Fortunus belechicus. Now, let's move to the sustainability evaluation. First thing, its carbon footprint. The pollution from fuel and transport. Crab pots and hand collection, it uses little fuel, so they are better for the environment. Bottom trawling uses a lot of fuel, which is bad for the planet. Air or cold transport produces lots of pollution. Mud crab ponds and mangrove are more eco-friendly and causes less harm. Second is biodiversity impact, the effect on other sea life. First, traps and hand collection. It don't hurt the other animals much. Trawling damages the sea floor and catches unwanted animals. The catching young or egg-laying crab is bad for the crab population. They can't grow or reproduce. Now let's move to the background. The catching technique. How crabs are caught. Sustainable methods are better for nature, and these include traps that let small crabs escape, rules about the size of crabs that can be caught, bans during breeding season to let crabs reproduce, and the unsustainable methods are harmful. These include trawling, which damages the seafloor, catching egg-carrying crabs, and using harmful chemicals in mangrove areas. For the market price, how much crabs cost? The blue swimming crabs, it costs 25 ringgit to 40 ringgit per kilogram. For mud crabs, it costs 40 ringgit to 80 ringgit per kilogram, which females with eggs cost more. Processed crab meat costs 80 ringgit to 150 ringgit per kilogram based on quality and freshness. These prices go up a lot during festive seasons. These would be the top 3 popular dishes. First is chili crab, the second is masak lemak cili api, and the third one is steamed crab with garlic and soy sauce. And finally, for the recommendations for both consumers and fisheries and also policymakers. For consumers, choose crabs caught using pots, traps or hand collection. Avoid buying undersized or egg-bearing crabs. And lastly, buy local and seasonal to reduce carbon footprint. For fisheries and policymakers, enforce size limits and seasonal bans, support community-based fisheries, provide incentive for selective gear, and lastly, improve traceability and stock monitoring.
Oke, saya ada 3 soalan saja. Kalau hitungan harganya dia per kilo berapa?
Sekilo 5 ringgit.
Untuk anti keluar, untuk pergi cari benarnya dekat mana? Macam mana?
Dekat Oppo, dekat Tunai.
Oke. Arti ada cadangan nggak untuk resepi masak dia macam mana?
Kari boleh, panggang boleh, semua boleh.
Yang paling sedap anti rasa?
Selalu ulang panggang.
Oh, panggang.
Next organism is clam. For identification, the general name is Asian heart clam, the locals call it kepah or ngoyang, and the scientific name is Meretrix lusoria. Next is clam background. For catching techniques, firstly, hand collecting, using hands or simple tools like small rakes to extract clams. Secondly, raking or forking, by dragging the rake along the seabed. Thirdly, dredging, using dredges to scoop up clams from the seabed along with sand and debris and being sorted on deck. Fourthly, aquaculture. Clam seeds or juveniles are planted in mesh bags, cages or directly in seabed plots and left to grow for several months to years. For the market price, it varies by size, location, freshness, and season. The average market price costs around 10 to 20 ringgit Malaysia per kilogram, while frozen clams cost between 12 to 13 ringgit Malaysia per kilogram. Farm clams tend to be cheaper than the wild caught ones. The common recipes for clam is masak lemak cili api, clam soup, grilled clam, and steamed clam. Next is sustainability evolution. For carbon footprint, clam aquaculture has a low carbon footprint and can even act as a carbon sink. For example, study shows that for each kilogram of clams farmed, shell formation captures significantly more carbon dioxide than is emitted during farming operations, making clam farming more climate friendly than intensive seafood industries such as prawn farming. And for catching method, manual harvesting methods such as hand picking generally have a low impact on biodiversity and cause minimal disturbance to habitats. However, Ms. Bayi et al. 2016 has shown that mechanical dredging or high-intensity harvesting can reduce macrofauna abundance and species richness, negatively impacting benthic communities and non-target species. Lastly, for biodiversity impact, for sustainable methods such as hand collection and small-scale raking, both of which have low ecological footprints and help preserve the environment. And for unsustainable methods such as large-scale mechanical dredging, if unregulated, can cause sediment disruption and habitat degradation. For recommendations, eco-certification schemes like those from the Marine Stewardship Council (MSC) and Aquaculture Stewardship Council (ASC) support sustainable clam farming and help consumers choose responsibly sourced seafood. Continued research and monitoring are crucial for reducing environmental impacts and promoting sustainable practices.
For the identification for shrimp, general name is black tiger shrimp, local name is udang harimau, scientific name is Penaeus monodon. For the background of the shrimp, first one is the catching techniques. Shrimp is captured in several ways according to the habitat. Techniques common include trawling, cast nets or push nets, shrimp traps or cages. The second one is the market price. The market price varies depending on the type and the size of the shrimp. As 2025 in Malaysia, farmed tiger shrimp RM28 to 40 per kilogram, wild caught sea shrimp RM35 to 60 per kilogram, freshwater shrimp RM20 to 30 per kilogram. Prices varies by location and the seasons. This is some example of the dishes. First one is udang masak lemak cili api. Second one, shrimp mee. Third one is a grilled shrimp.
For the sustainability evolution, first one is carbon footprint. Shrimp farming release a lot of carbon, more than beef or salmon. Cutting mangrove for pond make it even worse. The second one is biodiversity impact. Shrimp farm harm nature, mangrove flows, pollution and salty water all hurt sea life and their home. Last one is catching method. Shrimp are caught using boat nets, hand nets in the shallow water or trapped left on the sea floor.
According to the Seafood Watch Sustainable Shrimp Guide Monterey Bay Aquarium 2023, consumers should choose shrimp rated as a best choice or good alternative, preferably certified by MCS SCSUBAP. It advises avoiding shrimp linked to the habitat damage, such as dog caught with the bottom trawls or farm in open, unregulated system. Shrimp from a coast and circulating system are preferred due to reduced environmental impact. Transparency in sourcing and traceability is also emphasized.